I am on the official Embly 99 channel.
What, you are? Hello, today I'm here with the wonderful Natalie.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking a bit more about asexuality and relationships on a different, almost end of the ace spectrum to where I stand. So if you want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I am Natalie. I am 23 years old. I'm a Gemini. But yeah, I identify as I'm not quite sure, sex indifferent / sex positive asexual.
Cool.
And my pronouns are she, her.
What about romantic orientation as well?
I am not sure. I would lean towards hetero-romantic, but obviously that's open to interpretation.
Yeah,
but I've only
fluidity,
ever,
whatever. Yeah. You were recently in a 5-year-long relationship.
That's correct.
Obviously sexual relationship as well, not just like a platonic and romantic thing. What was that like as an ace person?
For the first couple of years, I did not realise I was ace until like a year or two ago, because that's kind of when I first became like introduced to the orientation. Like I didn't know anything until then. Yeah. So I started to kind of identify with it about a year ago, maybe a year and a half. So until then, it kind of functioned like any kind of normal relationship. Like, but I don't know how much of that was kind of like kind of from forced heteronormativity.
Yeah, from just what you think is a thing.
Yeah. So
one of my questions is, when did you know that you were ace? Was it like before or during the relationship? Obviously it's during.
Yeah.
How did you coming to terms of you being ace affect your relationship?
I think basically, even though I do kind of see myself as like sex positive, more leaning towards sex indifferent, it kind of made me more comfortable with the idea that like I'm not particularly fussed about sex and stuff. Like obviously like before that,
like if someone told you you could never have sex again, you'd be
like I'd be like, cool, whatever.
Right?
Until then it was kind of like I kind of felt like I had to be like really enthusiastic about it, and that like I was actually kind of like, actually maybe not.
I've kind of explained a lot on YouTube, and I know I have to you as well, about how sex repulsion feels to me and how I feel about sex. So for me that's like the TV show example I use, where everyone else has been watching this TV show but I don't get that channel on TV, and I don't really get what they're talking about. It's just not relevant to my life. I'm not necessarily like, oh, a Grace TV show, but like, well, I don't get the point of the TV show. It just seems like it's there. Other people like it, I guess. Where do you kind of stand on that kind of thing?
Using that analogy, I would say I'm more like, I have this channel, so I can watch this TV show, and I do enjoy this TV show. I like it. It's, you know, it's good to watch, but like, if it was cancelled, like it wouldn't bother me too much.
Unlike Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But yeah, like I know it's a very niche example, but it's something that occurred to me, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago, and it's an example I really like using because I feel like, especially for our generation before we could watch TV shows online if we didn't have the channel, it definitely is one that I can relate to. And it's just so weird that I relate my childhood to my sexuality like that. I don't know.
No, I get it, because like I grew up watching like cable, and I had Cartoon Network and CBBC, and then everyone else grew up watching Nickelodeon, and I'm like, what's Zoe 101?
Is this just an asexual thing? Like, did all asexuals just only have Freeview? Can you please please? Obviously, as you know, sexual attraction is to do with sexuality, which seems really stupid, and you don't need to point that out with any other sexuality, really. Like, it just is implied, but all asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction. Asexual people can still have a sex drive and experience sexual arousal and enjoy sex and stuff like that. And obviously I know that from just talking to people and researching and having spoken to so many different ace people from so many different kind of experiences. Where do you stand on that kind of experience? Because obviously you were in a relationship for 5 years. Like, you lived together as well? Yeah, we did. And how does like the sex drive and sexual arousal thing kind of like play into, and like enjoyment of sex as well, like play into you as an asexual person and like your identity.
Yeah, so for me, I kind of fall on like both sides of it, like both stereotypes. So like I naturally have kind of like a lower libido, which is where the sex indifference comes into it as well. But also like for me, it's like I'm not bothered about it, but if it happens, it's fun. Like I don't care. Yeah. I think it kind of put a strain on things somewhat because I was kind of rare to initiate, and like it would always be my ex initiating, and I don't know if he kind of felt like that was kind of like not a responsibility, but like
because when I spoke with Danny and Kellen, the video will be in the description. It's a very interesting video. They are both on the A spectrum, and communication was a big thing for them. And obviously when you've got a partner who isn't on the A spectrum or on the LGBT spectrums at all, it's a very different dynamic, especially if you've come to terms with being ace since knowing him and dating him. Then it's not quite as simple as just communicate. Like safe words, that kind of thing. Like it's not the same situation, though those things are still very important and I recommend them, of course. It's not the same dynamic. Yeah, like you can communicate as much as you want, but at the end of the day, if you have fundamentally different ideas of like how sexuality in a relationship works and how it works for you, then that's gonna cause issues. Yeah, and that's a shame. But the A spectrum is of just such a different nature to other orientations, and it's really mad when you think about it. Like, you can't compare the A spectrum to anything. It's like when people first start to think about like LGBTQ plus stuff, they imagine almost like an axis of like gender and sexuality. But where is like ace and arrow on that? Like it's there, but it's not really there because it's not the same as the hetero homo spectrum. But it's still it's so confusing, and I definitely want to do more research into that at some point, but that's not what we're talking about now. It's like the difference between romantic and sexual orientation for most people. That's not something they ever have to think about because they coincide so easily. Like having a different romantic orientation to sexual orientation is very interesting. I spoke to my friend Greg about this a little while ago. The video should be out by now. Link in the description. If not, it's coming out in July. And he is on like the A spectrum, but is also bi and is more sex indifferent and positive as well. And obviously you have probably hetero romantic, and I'm like mostly aromantic, but I'm more at the aromantic end, and because I'm very demi or grey or something question mark, I usually just use aromantic as a label because for most of the time that's what works for me, and that's what I feel comfortable using, but I don't feel the same way about it as ace. Like, it's very interesting, and I don't know what it's like to feel exactly the same way about your romantic and sexual orientation. Like, when I think about sexual relationships, I'm kind of like, ugh, I don't understand that. But when I think about romantic relationships, I think like rom-coms and cute films, and like I'm not repulsed by it. In fact, like, I'd be quite cute. But like becoming aware of like asexuality and like the split attraction model, like it's honestly very interesting. It's honestly made me eye-opening as well. It's made me rethink like my entire life up until the point where I realized that's the mood, isn't it? Honestly, like I went back throughout like high school and was like, I'd thought about everyone I'd ever like felt any kind of closeness to that I'd labelled as a crush. And then it makes so much more sense, and it's like, those people who were just like a little bit nicer to me because like I kind of like, I felt like I personally attacked. I felt like I like had to put a label on that, even though it was literally just someone being nice to me. Literally, the other thing that I have on my list is, what about relationships that you've been in or will be in the future, like after your 5-year relationship? So relationships since you've known that you're ace, and that's like where you stand on your identity and stuff. So since the 5-year one, I kind of had a thing, I don't know if I want to call it a relationship because it was so short, but I had a thing with someone else, and like I made it kind of very aware from the start, like I'm asexual, and
he kind of didn't understand that to start with, so I kind of explained it to him. He was like, okay, cool.
Like whatever you're comfortable with?
Yeah,
like, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And my long relationship started in like the exact same way, like what I thought was going to be like a one-night stand, but
yeah. So that's another thing that I want to talk about after.
But yeah, then it was like kind of the next day we kind of talked and were like, do you want to kind of make this a thing? For me, that was kind of like definitely more of a romantic attraction, but again, like because I'm sex indifferent / sex positive, like it is something that I am willing to do and can enjoy. Like even if it's not something that I actively seek out.
Yeah. So I had written as like a little start point because I think it's a very interesting thing and I've not really found anyone who I could like bring this point up to. I wanted to talk a bit about like asexuality and one night stands because they do exist. Like I may not
I am
know
literal
of many,
living proof that they can exist.
Yeah. One night stands are like, I know how to describe it, like everyone knows what a one night stand is. And I think it's very interesting to have a one night stand whilst on the ace spectrum, especially when you're indifferent, because a lot of the time when you identify as sex indifferent within the ace spectrum, it's usually the indifference means that you'll oblige if like the partner wants to or something like that. But obviously that's not always the case, much like bitch
rude,
much like everything in the ace spectrums, it's never as clear cut as you think it is. There's always more to know. So sex indifference is more than just obliging for a partner, such as one night stands. And I don't know how to phrase this next question, like how does a one night stand come about when you're on the ace spectrum?
So for me,
or for you, obviously, this does not apply to every ace person ever. These are our experiences, Nat's
like
experiences.
Literally every other sexuality, like how you experience that sexuality is personal to everyone. Like no one's ever going to be the same. But I have had 2 experiences that were what I thought were going to be one night stands, but then turned into something a little bit more. And had one experience where it was literally just kind of like making out with someone in a club. So for me, that was always like, for example, like the one where I just kissed someone. For me, it's definitely more of a why the fuck not thing. Like, it's fun. Like, it's not something I actively seek out, but
obviously.
it's fun. So how it came about was like, I think it has something to do for me with like the club culture as well. It was definitely, every time it was more of a them initiating and me just kind of going along with it. Not out of like obligation or because I didn't consent or whatever. It was literally just
it was consented, but it was more they triggered the
so it was initiated by the other party and I just kind of was like, okay, this is happening, sounds fun, let's go along with it. So yeah, that's how it works for me, kind of.
The last kind of points that I want to make, the 2 last points. One is, how does the sex repulsed, no masturbation, no relationship stereotype affect you and how people, or how you think people perceive you when you tell them that you're ace? I made a video about masturbation a couple of months ago and you made a video response to that. And we both kind of stand on the viewpoint that we don't masturbate, we don't need it. But that's just us. But how does that stereotype kind of like affect you when you're like, yeah, no, I'm ace, and people are like, wait.
So like people who kind of know the relationships I've been in and like the experiences I've had, it's kind of like the actual like stereotype of, oh, asexuality is just like that you're not interested in sex. Like for starters, that's just like wrong.
Not quite how it works.
Like sex repulsion and asexuality can kind of go hand in hand because of like the whole forced heteronormativity thing, and you kind of like reject that once you realize that it's not something that you have to adhere to. But for me, it's like that stereotype can also be quite harmful because like I see like, especially like in the kind of discourse, not that I want to get into that discourse right now, but the discourse of like,
I'm doing another video on that.
Aces aren't actually LGBT plus, like they are, because people have just a fundamental misunderstanding of what asexuality is.
I once saw someone say in an argument that like, again, this isn't for the discourse argument, it's just a point that goes along with it, that asexuals won't experience the same kind of oppression for being virgins as like whatever. And I'm like, asexuality doesn't equal
Yeah.
virginity.
Yeah, like I've seen some people kind of say that like, oh, not wanting sex isn't a sexuality, and I'm just like, that's not what it is, but thanks. And
Yeah.
then I actually feel like I just feel like kind of gleeful to be able to barge in on those arguments and be like, well, actually, I'm asexual and I actually enjoy sex, so yeah, fuck you.
What is a question I have, again, linked to this whole stereotype thing. Do you often get the 5-year relationship that you were in has ended, and do you often get people being like, oh, did he turn you ace?
Yeah.
Because like obviously you came to terms with being ace during that relationship.
Yeah.
So was there a period of time where people were really like, oh, what? So like he made you asexual? Because to clarify, that's not how asexuality works.
No, it's not. That's absolutely not. No, I don't think I did have like anyone say that to me, because obviously the community online that I am openly like out as asexual to, obviously is very welcoming, very understanding. In like actual like in-person life, I kind of mention it offhand to people, like, oh, I'm not necessarily straight, but I'm also not like gay or bi or whatever. There's this other sexuality.
It's me. Yeah.
There's this other sexuality, and most people are like,
other.
yeah,
The spare.
and then most people
The other opposite. That's what we are.
yeah, and then most people are like, oh yeah, whatever, and don't really question it, but obviously like you can see they're just kind of brushing it off as something that's just bullshit, which isn't great, but like I just kind of get on with it.
It's a shame that that's a thing though.
Yeah,
anyway,
we love being accustomed to erasure.
yeah, the norm.
Yeah.
No, day to day.
But yeah, I didn't
life.
like I said, because the community online is so welcoming and understanding, I didn't really get that very much, but
Sorry, there were two cars having like an argument out there.
Because the community online is so understanding
And supportive.
I didn't really get that like at all. But
Yeah, I've been generally very lucky. And my final little point, and the question that I want to end this on for you is, do you have anything to say to anyone who is on the ace spec and struggling with their sexuality, or struggling with the concept of sex in potential relationships or in current relationships?
Yes. I would say that it is a-okay to question your identity. There's nothing wrong with it.
Sexuality is fluid is the other thing to remember, and it's self-definitive as well.
And you absolutely do not have to adhere to stereotypes. And just because you do not adhere to those stereotypes does not make you any less valid.
What a wonderful word of wisdom. That is, I think, all of the questions that I have. Thank you for coming and chatting with me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having another different ace voice on my channel, because there is more to asexuality than my experiences. Obviously, I'm not the only voice here. Nat also has a channel, which I will link in the description, as well as like her other social medias. If you have any more questions on this specific topic, because I feel like obviously there's way more that we could have covered, but we just kind of stuck to like the basis of it. Then leave them in the description, and we could do another thing, or if they're like small questions, Nat can just answer. Anyway, thank you for
having me.
And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Okay, right. Bye.